Hello, my lovely people, and welcome to Owen's Mind, a light-hearted trip through the contents of my head and the world in general. So, just a special video today about the coronavirus. I wanted to give a few thoughts on that. Obviously, it is all over the world. It's all over the news. It's all everyone is talking about. It's, the fact that it is spreading the way it is, the effects of it, and how we are managing it, and the effects it's having on not just individuals who have it or those who may have it, but, the knock-on effect of the stock markets and industry and manufacturing and things that are now becoming in short supply because areas have been closed down or, to prevent the spread of the virus of having to be staff have been minimized, etc., etc., etc. My thoughts in this video are that essentially we have created a perfect environment for a virus to be transmitted, and this is kind of showing that the way the coronavirus is spreading is it's kind of speaking to the fact that we have essentially tailor-made an environment now where viruses can move between people very quickly. I'm going to get to that a bit later. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background, but why I also think that coronavirus in a weird way is going to present an opportunity to us going forward. There's lessons we can learn from this now, which I think will certainly benefit us down the road. So we'll get into that. But first, a little bit of background. And again, probably most of you know this because, like I say, it's been complete news coverage. But a little bit of background first. So coronavirus is actually a family of viruses. The information I'm about to give you, this first section is from the World Health Organization website. So coronavirus is a family of viruses that cause illnesses ranging from common cold to more severe diseases, such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which is MERS, or Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, which is SARS. A novel coronavirus is a new strain that has not previously been identified in humans. So then 2019, when we had the 2019 novel coronavirus, which became COVID-19, which is a specific strain that we are dealing with now. The one that's started in, they believe, Wuhan and is now kind of spreading. The coronavirus is zoonotic, meaning they are transmitted between animals and people. Investigations found the SARS was transmitted from civet cats to humans, and MERS was from dromedary camels to humans. There are several known coronaviruses which are circulating in animals which have not yet made the leap to humans. Common signs of infection include respiratory symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, and breathing difficulties, and in more severe cases, pneumonia, acute respiratory syndrome, kidney failure, and even death. Standard recommendations to prevent infection include regular hand washing, covering the mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing, thoroughly cooking meat and eggs, and avoid close contact with anyone showing symptoms of respiratory illness such as coughing and sneezing. So that's kind of what the virus is. The incubation period of COVID-19, at the minute, most estimates are from 1 to 14 days, most commonly around 5 days. So you can be infected, and for 2 weeks you may not know it. And that's one of the problems with this thing, is that you can have it for 2 weeks and go about your day and go about your life without ever knowing you've got an infection. So everybody you come into contact with in those 14 days could then potentially catch it. I don't know the transmission rate in regards how effective it is at moving from person to person. But yeah, at the minute it's anywhere between 1 and 14 days, but they reckon around 5 days. Okay, mortality rate is 2%. So 2 out of every 100 people who get COVID-19, it will kill them. It will be fatal. Demographically wise, it tends to be sort of obviously the weaker in population, so more elderly or infirm people. People saying, oh, it's no worse than the flu. The flu's mortality rate, the common influenza, 0.1%. So COVID-19 is 20 times higher in regards to mortality at the minute. So it is, it's something that does need to be separated out. It's not just a common cold. It's not just flu. This thing is a lot more dangerous. And they're calling it an epidemic, and they've been throwing around epidemic and pandemic. Now, I wasn't entirely sure. I knew what an epidemic was, what pandemic. So, layman's terms, an epidemic is an outbreak of a disease that attacks many peoples at the same time and may spread through several communities. A pandemic is when it spreads through the world. So, the word pan, like pan-European and pan-American. Pan is a prefix from the word Greek, from a Greek word pan, meaning all of everything or involving all members. So essentially, an epidemic becomes worldwide. That becomes a pandemic. So a pandemic is essentially a group of epidemics all over the world. So the concern for me is essentially we have tailor-made a world now where these viruses can move, they can travel. So obviously just through technology, human beings, we created mass transit. Large groups of people move together all over the world. Mix that in with kind of poor nutrition. You know, everyone's diet worldwide, not in every area, but generally, we are probably not eating as well. There's far more less satiating, nutritious food on the market. So your immune system is probably not what it was. We also have very high hygiene standards. So again, that's a good thing. But what it means is maybe your immune system isn't as optimized as it has to be because it doesn't need to be. Because it's not constantly having to fight off infections from the environment. We've sterilized things, we've killed things, and other illnesses and things. We've kind of pushed them all down through through good practice. It's not a bad thing we've done it, but I think it's left us open a little bit. Plus the fact that we are far more sedentary as a population. So again, we're not getting exercise, you're not getting good cardiovascular workout, and this is something that attacks your pulmonary system. So having that healthy can only be a good thing. So let's have a little exercise, okay? So let's track somebody. So let's say somebody's been infected and they don't know it. They're leaving a city and they catch a flight. So they're now sealed in an aircraft. And if it's a jumbo jet, let's say conservatively, a couple of hundred people. They are now in a sealed metal tube with a couple of hundred people. Now, years ago, the oxygen in an aircraft used to be recycled quite a lot on a very regular basis. This was because, well, it was number one, it just kept the cabin clean, but it was because smoking used to spill out on aircraft. So you have to pour the smoke out because it was a visible sign that the air was dirty. Since they banned smoking, they don't need to do that as often because it is expensive. Because, okay, I'm not going to get too much into this, but apparently airlines fly on what's called a half pack. Now, PAC stands for Pressurization and Air Conditioning Kit, which is a small turbine which takes bleed air from the engine and pushes it into the warms it and pushes it into the cabin in order, but it's maintains the pressure, so you don't feel an air pressure. They don't do it as often now because it's so that's what they do now. They don't pull air in from the outside and warm it up and put it through because it costs money. Yes, so this is from a forum I found. So it's don't change the air as regular as it costs money to bring fresh sub-zero air in from outside and heat it to cabin temperature. So yeah, the air in your aircraft is not getting recycled as often. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that if they were, if they recycled all the air like they used to do back when there were smokers allowed, that this would remove traces of a virus, because I don't think it's an airborne virus at this minute. But again, it's just created a kind of a less than optimal environment maybe. So just to be clear, I'm not saying it's the airline's fault or anything like that. I'm just saying it's just another tiny little, maybe a contributing factor. Okay, so our person has the infection. He's on a flight. He might be on a 10-hour flight. That's a lot of time when you're in very close proximity to a lot of people to brush past and cough and grab the handle on the toilet and drinks trolleys, and you have a bottle or you have utensils and you have it on your hands because you've coughed. And then the cabin crew come and take it away and they touch it and then it goes. And so, all these little things. You then arrive at an airport, thousands of people, lots of queuing, lots of people stood in very close proximity. So now you go and you collect your luggage and you're stood shoulder to shoulder with loads of other people and it's hot and it's stuffy and, this kind of thing. So from that airport, there'll be thousands of people who will now get on planes in exactly the same kind of environment and circumstances you've just come from, and they will go out to other airports. So this is moving. Okay, and for those of you who arrive at the airport and are leaving, how do you leave the airport? You might get a cab, you might walk if you live close enough, but chances are you might get a coach or a bus. Again, small environment, lots of people. You might get the subway, sealed environment, lots of people in close contact, people on the subway platform, shoulder to shoulder, very close contact, stuffy environment, not a lot of air circulating, this kind of thing. So what we've done by expanding our reach around the world and allowing people to visit and get everywhere has now meant that anything we're carrying will get everywhere. So realistically, anywhere you can get from any point on this planet to any other planet within 24 hours, let's say. I think the longest flight from the UK to Australia is 24 hours with a stopover. But I think that's probably the longest flights there is. So from any point on Earth, you can get to any other point on Earth realistically within 24 hours. You could have this virus for 2 weeks at the outer end of the scale without knowing it, but let's say conservatively 5 days. So if somebody gets on a plane and they have the virus and they spread it to somebody else, and then that person gets on a plane, this thing is all over the world. This thing could be round the world 3 or 4 times before that first person knows they even have it. So that's the danger. That's why we need to take this seriously, and also why I think COVID-19 is giving us an opportunity. Now, no disrespect in what I'm about to say, but the fatality rate is low. 2% is a lot. It's a lot. It's 20 times higher than normal influenza. And obviously, if you've been affected by it, if you've lost somebody, or you've been affected directly by this, I don't want to downplay it. But the fact that we have this virus, which has quite a long gestation period, and a 2% high, but not as high as it could be, mortality rate, gives us an opportunity to study how this thing works and how to put things in place and how to combat something which essentially we cannot see for a number of days, but which will be spreading in those days. So it's given us an opportunity to create measures of what we're by. Right, we know it started here, so we need to track people out from there. Where have they gone to? And then from there and then kind of work back and contain it. And the reason obviously we need to know these lessons is because imagine there's a new virus 2 years from now, which has a gestation of 21 days. So maybe 3 weeks. I don't know how long the maximum can be for a virus, but let's say the higher end of the COVID scale, 14 days, 2 weeks. So let's say 2 weeks before you show symptoms, but the mortality rate is 10% or 50%. All of a sudden you've got something which is, 50-50 if you're going to live, and it could be 2 weeks from the first person getting it, showing a symptom and dying from it, before we even know it's around. And in those 2 weeks, using these mass transit systems, that thing is global immediately. It's an immediate pandemic because it is everywhere. And again, I'm not trying to scaremonger, but the more we can learn from this one, which has again, no disrespect, a reasonably low mortality rate, but a high kind of transition rate and quite a long gestation period, the more prepared we're going to be down the line. So let me be clear here. The people at the CDC and the World Health Organization, they know everything I am talking about, and a million other things I'm not considering. I am not anything special. I'm not going, hey, they're probably not thinking about this. Of course they are. They are thinking about all this and the next 10 viruses ahead. They are well aware of this. So for me, this video is more about if COVID-19 gets worse, if it spreads further, people are going to start leaning on the government, and they're going to start leaning on airlines, because they always do. It's a natural reaction. We're going to push back at these people going, why didn't you do something? And why haven't you done this? And why haven't you shut that? And why haven't you stopped this thing? So hopefully what I'm kind of illustrating in this video is that it is exceptionally hard to do. And I think we need to work with them at every opportunity and listen to their advice, because we've got a horrible sort of mix of some people saying it's nothing to worry about, I'm not going to quarantine myself, or I'm just going to nip out. They've told me to stay. There was the hotel in Tenerife where people were, stay in your rooms, do not go out. And yet there was pictures of people by the poolside with a mask on. Those masks, incidentally, do nothing. Now, not all of them, but the one that's like a particulate mask, apparently, and do double check this, but I'm fairly certain they don't actually help. You'd need one that really kind of refreshes the air, as opposed to just kind of blocks out heavy particle, like what you'd use if you're doing some sanding or some DIY. Those things apparently are not going to make a huge difference. You will also see people wearing masks that cover the mouth and not the nose. So again, if you're going to wear it, at least make it work. And another thing is that that's just part of it. Because if you take it off, but you've got it on your hands, if you've touched the door handle, so cleanliness has to be a whole package. So, but yeah, they were told stay inside, and there was people going out to the pool with the masks on. And again, if you buy the pool, you probably get a drink, so that mask probably comes off, so you can have a sip of your beer or whatever it is. So again, take it seriously. Listen to the advice they're giving. The people who are giving you this advice know more about this disease than you do, than I do. That is their career, that is their job. This is not mine. I know nothing more than you know because I can use Google and read the newspapers. That's all I've done. What I'm saying is, when they give advice, they're giving it for a reason. And it may feel like it's overcautious, but if I've indicated anything in this video, it's that if you don't take big steps, this thing will move. And you can go, yeah, well, it's, the chances of it, killing me. I'm quite, I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm not in that demographic, I'm not old or infirm. But some of your relatives are. So it might not kill you. What if you pass it on to a loved one and it kills them? Or they pass it on. This is the thing. Don't be a link in the chain because it's not going to affect you. So yeah, I just think going forward, if this thing gets worse and it starts to spread more and infects more people, the natural reaction is people are going to be pushing back against government bodies and agencies going, why didn't you do more? And I'm trying to say, it's exceptionally hard to do more. They have got an incredibly difficult task ahead of them. So when they do give us advice, which is good advice and it is going to help, please listen to it. Nobody wants to be locked up in their house for 2 weeks, or in a flat, or in an apartment block, or you're stuck on a cruise ship like some people were, and nobody wants that inflicted on them because it's a pain, because it's not your, and you might think, well, what are the chances? 2%, yeah, that's not going to kill me. I'll take those odds. Yeah, but then the person down the line from you, 3 or 4 people down the line, because you gave it to somebody who gave it to somebody who gave it to somebody with a newborn, or somebody, elderly. Don't be that link in the chain. But again, there is opportunity here. There's things that can be learned from this. So when something else comes along, because inevitably they will, because viruses mutate and things get. And we are hearing more and more now that certain illnesses and viruses are becoming resistant to the treatments we have. There is a worry that we have over-medicated to a point where these things can now work round the defences we have. And we have to come up with new kind of treatments for them. So this will come back around. Something else will come, and it might not be for 5, 10, 20 years, but it is going to come. So anything we can learn from this in regards to response can only be a good thing. Anyway, so that's it, guys. It was just a couple of thoughts I just wanted to get out there. Do listen to the advice. Do you live your life? Don't live afraid, but do be aware, and do follow the advice. And I know it's easy to just say not my problem, but it is because people. Everybody knows people. Nobody lives completely insularly, and if it doesn't affect you and you just think, fine, it will affect somebody else through you. So anyway, that's it, guys. Just a little video, a few thoughts there for you. So stay safe, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and yeah, be happy, be healthy, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.